Hello, everyone. We have Mr. Pranav Gupta with us today, who is a prominent name in the education sector and has notable contributions in the higher education space. So, he's also the founder and trustee at Ashoka University, Plaksha University, and he's the co founder of Jamboree Education as well. Apart from this, Pranav sir also serves as the chairman of PhD Chamber of Commerce in Punjab and Haryana and is a member of many advisory boards for the governments of Punjab and Haryana. So, having you here with us today, Pranav sir, it's a real pleasure, and you are most welcome to our channel.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you always. And
Likewise.
I'm sure we are set up for an interesting conversation today.
Definitely, sir. We are looking forward for the same. So we have a couple of questions to ask you about education abroad. So
Sure.
we'll start with a very basic question so that the aspiring students can also learn about the process of studying abroad. So what are the requirements to get admission into any foreign college, especially top destinations like USA, UK, and Canada?
Very good question, Akshay. Very basic question. And so let me start with saying that unlike the Indian higher education system, which has primarily been dominated in the last 20 years by public universities, which we also call government universities, where your admission depends on your class 12 marks till now. And now it will depend upon your scores in the CUCET, the Common Entrance Test. And the ranking in these scores or the scores in these exams will kind of determine which college you go to, which university you go to, or which major you get into. The process of getting into universities outside India is very different.
Mhm.
So one of the basic things we have to understand is that when a student wants to go abroad, universities outside India, especially US, UK, and Canada, which are the top three destinations from an Indian perspective, are looking at a very holistic process of admission.
Okay.
So when I talk about a holistic process of admission, I'll probably say that not only looking at your academics, which I just mentioned, the Indian top public universities look at. They look at your academics very closely. That's the first bucket. Academics meaning your grades in class 9, your grades in class 10, your grades in class 11, your grades in 12th, your predicted scores, and sometimes they also like to look at your actual scores.
Mhm.
What have you learned in education outside the classroom? Have you done any online courses? Have you taken part in any competitions, Olympiads, etc.? So the first bucket is really the education bucket, in which you look at your marks within school and education outside the school.
All right.
The second bucket is the extracurricular bucket. So they really want a child to be admitted into the universities which has good extracurricular activities. And extracurricular activities could range from swimming, from dancing, painting, even hobbies like coin collection. So they're really looking at how a child is, looking at other activities besides education, because if you're looking at other activities to do, your focus in terms of disrupting, inventing new things, innovation will be much higher. It's commonly said that sometimes the best ideas do get generated when a person actually is not studying, but when a person is actually doing an offbeat activity, and
Right.
they've been like top guys who really invented a lot of stuff. Somebody just playing badminton or playing tennis, etc.
Hmm.
The third bucket is the social impact bucket, which in simple terms from an Indian perspective is also called the non-profit bucket. So they're really wanting to see a side of you which has a social element to it. And how do you view society? What have you done for society in terms of social work? Because they want to develop or train an individual out of the university which has a social element, so that the education which is imparted in the university really can impact society. You can solve grand challenges. So that's the third really bucket they're seeing. And they're seeing this bucket through your experiences in non-profit organizations, which could range from teaching poor children. A lot of people did phenomenal work in COVID. Could be challenging work for the environment, for energy conservation, and there's so many activities around us which need disruption. Digital agriculture, digital health, etc. And the fourth bucket is they're looking in you qualities of leadership, because they really want you to come out of university, come out of college, and become leaders, because leaders do impact society, right? So we've seen our Prime Minister impacting India because they have the capability and the power. So they want you to become leaders when they come out of universities. And this trait they're really seeing in you in terms of any positions. For example, if you're going out of school, they're really seeing that if you have had any top positions within your school, right? As a head boy or a head girl or a president of any club. In the management side, if you've done your undergraduate and going at post-graduation, again, they're looking at a similar profile. So these are four different buckets in which they normally score you, right? They'll score you on the academic bucket, they'll score you on extracurricular, they'll score you on social impact and leadership. And once they mark you on all the various parameters, they'll normally come out with a score, which is an internal score, and then generally they'll give you a offer. So this is the broad, a very, very broad fundamental way in which foreign universities look at admitting foreign students.
All right. So you were saying something?
Yeah. So on top of these buckets, which really a student has to do on their own, there are certain examinations also which are required. There's top examinations also which you have to clear in along with these buckets in terms of applying to universities. So if you want to go after school, let's say you want to go for your undergraduate, then you have to clear the SAT. There's also an exam called the ACT, which is more testing you on subjects. SAT is a broad exam on English and mathematics. It's scored over 1600. And if you're going at the master's level, if you're going after your graduation, then there are exams like the GRE and the GMAT. GMAT is a very common exam if you want to do an MBA. GRE is an exam.
Yeah. Right.
GRE is an exam if you want to do your master's, let's say in engineering or management, etc.
Right.
On top of these exams, there's a basic exam called IELTS and TOEFL also. And these are English proficiency tests which are required on top of the other exams which I mentioned earlier. And these are basically simple exams just testing your basic English proficiency, just to make sure that when you go to these countries, because all of them are English-speaking countries, and I just want to make sure that when you go, you understand what the professors are teaching, and you're really understanding the lectures, and you're really able to imbibe the knowledge and the education which is imparted.
Correct.
One more thing which I want to mention is when I talked about the holistic process of admission, when I talked about various buckets, this also slightly differs country-wise. For example, US is very particular. If some students are going to the US is very particular about taking off all these buckets, the extracurriculars, the academic part, the social impact and leadership. But UK and Canada gives, while they look at all the other extracurriculars, social impact and leadership, but they give more weightage on academics. So that's a bit of a difference between UK and Canada versus the US.
Okay.
And so once you've kind of done all these activities, you've given these exams, then you kind of, the process is very simple. You download the application forms, you fill in the application forms, you report all these scores of these exams which you've taken, you highlight all these activities, leadership positions, etc. in the application form. You're also required to write essays. So essays play a very, very important part in the application. An essay could be on a topic like, if you're with friends in an evening, what would your conversation be like? So they're really trying to judge you about your character, about your interest, about your intellectual capability, and they're trying to make a holistic judgment about you as a human being to make sure that you're the right fit for the university. Some top universities, once you've submitted these forms, along with the essay, along with the scores, along with all the details of your personal achievements, some of the top universities will also contact you for an interview. For a video. Very, very important. For a video interview. Right. And it's usually physical too, because a lot of these top universities have alumni in India.
Mhm.
And till a couple of years back, it used to be physical. So they would have you
Okay.
connect with a local alumni
Acha.
close by to your city. And then,
Okay.
you could have a conversation over coffee. And the
Right.
interview plays also a very, very important role.
Yeah.
But this, while saying that, this is probably done by some of the top universities. So, but not every university will mandate an interview. But if you want to get into Harvard, Princeton, Yale, or some of the top Ivy League universities, the best in the world, you
Right.
will not probably get in without doing a in-person interview. Obviously, COVID has disrupted a lot of this stuff, and
Right.
all the interviews now, even after COVID, now are happening online.
Online. Correct. All right. So we can say that a lot of things matter. If somebody is looking forward to study abroad, because mainly students do not have a very wide knowledge about how to go abroad. We only know students only know that these are the exams that we have to give, prepare for, and this is what we need to nail in terms of examinations. So you've cleared.
And the other
Come on,
The other
Shahid.
thing which I would like to kind of advise students is that if you really want to aim for some of the top university, which you should, because the university stays on your resume for a long, long time, right? So
Of course.
20 years down the road in a student's life, probably the schooling comes out and the university comes in. The university always stays. This preparation really starts at grade 8, grade 9, if you want to aim in terms of filling in all these various buckets, because you need that kind of time in terms of balancing your school activities, in terms of balancing other activities, making sure you have a top-notch application.
Right.
The other thing also, Akshay, I would like to say is that so the process is that once you submit these applications to these universities, you'll probably if your application is top-notch and if the university thinks you're a fit, you'll probably get a admit. And some of the universities also defer your application and would want to wait for your final scores. Typically at the undergraduate level, especially at the undergraduate level, all these applications go when you're in class 12, for example. Boards happen in March. Let's say, for example, the boards happen around February, March, but the applications go 4 months earlier while you have still not completed your 12th.
Right.
So they're really waiting. They'll sometimes give you if they're not sure about you, they'll give you a deferred admit, and they'll like to see your final marks.
Okay.
UK does that a lot. UK typically doesn't admit you till you get your final scores, and they want to make sure that whatever they have evaluated in terms of your academic performance in 9th, 10th, 11th is consistent with what you get in your 12th.
Your 12th.
US is a bit liberal on that.
Okay. So US gives other options where they evaluate the person's character. Also, the way the student thinks, how aspirational he is. So, all right. So that's a major difference between UK and USA. Okay. And I'm sure Jamboree Education, sir, you being the co-founder, I'm sure Jamboree is doing a lot of people might not know what Jamboree Education is, but through Jamboree Education, I'm pretty sure that a lot of students are getting educated about how to plan their studies abroad. Grabbing the students at 8th and 9th standard, preparing them and making them ready for the higher studies abroad. So I'm sure Jamboree Education is doing great on that front.
Actually we are, and we've got a very niche product, especially for class 12 grade kids who aspire to go abroad after class 12. It's called the Dream College Product Program. And it basically fulfills your dreams in terms of aspiring to go to a top-notch university. And there we get students from class 9, class 8 also now. And it gives us sufficient time in terms of 3 to 4 years working with the child very closely, in terms of getting them real-time social impact experiences, getting them internships, getting them capstone projects, getting them research projects. So there's a lot of stuff and activity which we do with students. We get them do summer internships, summer schools, online workshops, and a lot of stuff. So you probably need these 3-4 years. A lot of students don't know about it, and they kind of contact us in class 11 and 12th, and then you have very little time to work. So my advice always is that start early if you want to aspire to go to a top-notch university.
Right. So I think the parents also need to be educated first, because at the age of when a student is in 8th or 9th, he might not be that much aware about where he wants to study, why. So parents play a bigger role here when a student is in 8th or 9th standard. I guessing. So
No, Akshay, absolutely right. And especially for children who are going after class 12, you're right. A class 12-year-old kid or 11-year-old kid probably doesn't really know. And so the parents are very, very important part. So a lot of these kids who come to us come with their parents, and the parents are part of the decision-making process. And unless the parents are aligned, they typically don't enroll with us. And at the same time, we do a lot of webinars and seminars in schools, where we especially go around parent-teacher time, parent-teacher meeting time, where parents are available in school. And so you're absolutely right on spot there in terms of saying that the parents need to be part of the process.
absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So I'm sure the answer has enlightened a lot of aspirants, and we'll move on to the second question also, which is also again a very interesting question. So as per the Open Doors report by Institute of International Education, USA has emerged as the top destination for higher education amongst Indian students. So what makes USA the most preferred choice for Indian students, and what kind of courses do most Indians prefer doing in the USA?
So I think again, Akshay, is a very brilliant question. And before I answer, let me just give you a couple of statistics about. So the top 3 destinations from an Indian standpoint amongst Indian students, as I mentioned earlier, is UK, US, and Canada. And the pecking order is probably US number 1, Canada number 2, and UK number 3. So you've got to understand a few basic things why US has really emerged as a top destination. I'll talk about numbers first, some certain statistics, and then we'll go to specifics. What makes the US education system the best in the world?
Sure.
So US has about 5,000 universities. As you know, US has a population of 350 million, around 35 crores. Got 5,000 universities, and its economy is $23 trillion in GDP, and probably the largest economy in the world.
Correct.
The total world GDP is about 100 trillion, and US is about 23%. And Canada is a large country by size, but it has, compared to US, only 200 universities and around 200 colleges. So you can just see the vast difference in number of colleges in Canada versus the US. It's got a population of about 40 million, about 4 crores. And so Canada's population is about the size of Punjab and Haryana, right?
All right.
And its GDP is very small. It's 2.2 trillion. So, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm mentioning GDP now in terms of when I go ahead. UK, just to give you a comparison, has about 160 universities. So it has lesser number of universities than even Canada. Its population is bigger. It's got 67 million population and GDP of about 3 trillion. So its GDP is also, so its population and GDP is higher than Canada. And so the reason I mentioned specifically about the economy is that plays a major role in terms of job opportunities, etc., which I'm going to talk about later. Also, a very interesting statistic is that amongst the top 100 universities in the globe, 50 of them happen to be in the US.
50 of them happen
and
to
only,
be.
Yeah. So if you look at top 100 rankings globally of universities, 50 are in the US, 5-6 in UK, 5-6 in Canada. So clearly, US has, amongst the 3 nations, the most expansive education system in the world, a great economy, and a large workforce. Some of the other interesting numbers are US takes about 1 million students every year from foreign countries.
1 million.
10 lakh students go per year. Per year, about 10 lakh students, about 1 million go to the US every year.
Okay.
Out of that, 2 lakh happen to be coming from India.
From India.
2 lakh go from India.
And
so 20% of students, foreign students coming into the United States come from India. Both at the masters and the undergraduate.
Correct.
Now, let's flip it around. look at from an Indian perspective, which was your question. And from India, about 5 to 6 go. And out of them, as I mentioned, 2 lakh go to the US, about 3 lakh approximately go to destinations, Canada, UK, Ireland is emerging as a large destination, Australia, New Zealand, medical courses we saw in Ukraine, China,
Russia,
lots of parts. Russia for medical is very famous, and students even go to Japan and Tokyo, etc. And even Germany and Amsterdam, Netherlands are all emerging as European destinations. So, but US clearly is the largest number of students from an Indian standpoint. Also from a US standpoint, now it's tipped over China. China used to be number 1 from a US standpoint, but India has overtaken China now after the pandemic. And the other basic reasons, besides the fact that it's got top universities, top 50 out of 100 are in the US. We've got the Ivy Leagues there. We've got 5 top universities. But some of the other things which makes US the preferred choice, as we largely see from the statistics and numbers, are the following reasons. That the US has the most flexible and interdisciplinary education system in the world. And what I mean by that is that, for example, if I want to go after my 12th to study economics at a university in America, after 1.5 years, I can change. I can decide that, look, I don't like economics. I want to do history. I want to do political science. I want to do psychology. So they have the flexibility to change your major after 1.5 years. And in the first 1.5 years, whether you decided to do economics in your application, you can choose. And the reason is they really want you to pursue your passion. They want you to do something which you like and not do something just because you applied for a particular major or something you showed interest to. So that's a huge advantage of the system. In fact, Canada and UK also don't offer that flexibility, which US offers on changing the major. The other big advantage is interdisciplinary education. So tomorrow, after 1.5 years, I could like economics, but at the same time, I say that, look, I am also interested in psychology. So that's the only country where you can do a double major. You can major in economics, you can major in psychology. And so you can do a double major, you can do a major, minor, and a concentration. So lots of mixing and matching depending on your interests. And they really want you to come out of university having pursued your passion, because the basic fundamental is that if you pursue your passion, you're going to excel in that. You're going to like what you do, and then, achieve for yourself and achieve for the country and the world as a whole. The other advantages are you can take off for a semester. If you decide, I want to take off, I've studied for 2 years, I want to do an internship, or I want to do just travel, you can just take off. You can join back. On the flip side, you can complete your degree earlier. So the whole system is credit based. You need to complete broadly about 120 credits, 125 credits in 4 years. I'm talking more about the undergraduate level. And if you decide to, study during summers or winters, you can just or take more credits during the semester, the regular semester. You can finish your degree earlier. So, so a lot of flexibility in just summarizing, changing your major, minor, interdisciplinary education, pacing your degree in terms of how you want to pace it, etc. So these are also some of the huge factors in terms of making US as a very expansive, very popular choice. Other big factors too are that US universities are the most liberal on scholarships, and the scholarships are something which is dear to every student's heart. So we see that US universities offer more liberal scholarships than Canada and UK. Now, lastly, coming to the point which I mentioned earlier, US is a $23 trillion economy, the largest economy in the world.
Correct.
After you've studied, Akshay, you want a job, right? You want a high-paying job. So the kind of job opportunities which are available in US versus UK and Canada are much higher, just because of the sheer size of the economy. So you can imagine $20 trillion US, Canada is 2 trillion, and UK is about 3 trillion, right? So there's a huge difference. The US economy is 10-15 times 15 times bigger than both of these individual nations. So that shows a lot of opportunities, and that is also reflected in the tech world. If you see the last generations in the last 3-4 years, if you see the top 10 companies which are kind of affect our daily lives, right? From the Googles to the Microsofts to the Apples, and the commerce platforms and the tech coming out. They all come out from the US. And why does that come out from the US? Because of the university system. Because the best talent goes to the university. The universities offer the best education. And this talent then out and goes to industry and does some wonderful work. So this is also a reason that students feel that while they go to the US, not only is the education good, but the opportunities in terms of jobs are also extremely
valuable. Good. So very sensible answer, sir. I mean, this has been the most well sorted answer that I have heard about why US is emerging as the top destination and has stayed there for a long time now. I really love the answer. I'm sure all the people who will be watching the video, they must understand why US has emerged as the top destination, sir. All right. Okay. So it was great having you, with the conversation here, sir. And we're looking forward for more conversations with you, right? And
Plaksha, thank you so much for having me with you today, and it was wonderful talking to you. And same here. I'm also looking forward to having more conversations in future. So do let me know when we need to chat again. Thank you.
Definitely, I'll get in touch with you, sir. Okay. Nice speaking with you, sir. All right.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.